Texas had their version of that boring old BoomerCon CPAC event. I remember watching, what was that, late February? Did a couple of videos on it, and oh boy, is that just the grift capital for the Conservative Party, or whatever. Those old establishment types go down there, try to hawk their books and appeal to the cool kids by saying woke and cancel culture 95 fucking times in their 15-minute little speech segment. And the only thing that was really of importance out of that was the last time Kristi Noem was relevant. James O'Keefe coming out there showing everybody how to perform and give a decent presentation, and then the keynote address by Trump. And it looks like that was exactly what happened there again. I don't really know. Didn't watch any of the panels. I'm sure they're out there and you can watch them if you like. But yeah, the only guy of consequence who was down there. And we'll actually touch on the other guy of relevance because he also had a few things to say. But when the chips are down, the only person who makes headlines coming out of this stuff is the guy who's going to be running again in 2024. He's made his mind up. He just is trying to keep it a little bit close to the chest. But if you're not going to be running in 2024, okay, you wouldn't be reading scripted speeches and you wouldn't be doing all of these events in the run-up to 2022 and then again for 2024. So come on, Trump, you're not really kidding anybody at this point. But let's see what he had to say. Former President Trump promised on July 11th to defeat critical race theory during his speech on the Conservative Political Action Conference in Texas. I applaud that effort. I just hope he knows what critical race theory is. He does, because he removed the teaching of it in federal institutions, something that Biden on day one got rid of with an executive order, sounding the alarm on it before every other fucking middle-of-the-road Republicans like, oh, CRT's real bad. So, once again, Trump, he's like one of a kind. I was going to try to make a comparison there, but yeah, no, there's no other political figure right now with their finger on the pulse of the nation, okay? He knows what people want. It's just unfortunate he doesn't know who are the best people to surround himself with, because you get into some of the text of the speech, and yeah, it's just bog standard conservatism. I really hope he starts to turn this stuff around. There is a lot of time, all things considered, but things are going to get a hell of a lot worse before they start to get better, and the sooner Trump gets on track, the better everybody's going to be in the long run. With the help of everyone here today, we will defeat the radical left, the socialists, Marxists, and the critical race theorists. Just say China, dude. Just fucking save everybody the time. Nobody says China quite like you, so that at the base of it, that's where all of this stuff is coming from, okay? Just look at what they're banning, and then look at the same stuff that they're trying to accuse everybody else in the world of doing. Like, it's real rich that you're getting lectured from a country who forcibly goes into people's government-appropriated dwellings, removes any picture of Jesus Christ or any sort of religious figures, and you can have your choice of Xi Jinping or Mao to replace it with, and then have the balls to say that Canada isn't taking human rights seriously and religious freedom is being suppressed with all the church burnings that have been happening lately. Like, they're pushing all this stuff. They block LGBT conversation, which is pretty based out there. But then at the same time, yeah, what are all those simps really at the end of the day? They love all of those same big corporations that are funded and suckling at the tit of the CCP. So call it out for what it is, dude. We will secure our borders. We will stop left-wing cancel culture. How could you even do that? But I do appreciate, well, because he was down there at the border, and he at the actual border, you know, where the crisis is happening, not off at a fucking airport in El Paso. We will restore free speech and free elections, and we will make America great again. Here's hoping, dude, because we're going to be running back 2020 and 2024. We'll see what the outcome is at that time around. Parents across the United States have wrangled with teachers, school boards, and teachers' unions over whether critical race theory should be taught in public school, or should be taught to public school students. You know how you solve this, okay? Even if the school boards win, okay? Even if the teachers' unions win, you don't let them go to public schools, because they were already deteriorating when I was there from, what would that be, 1996 through 2008? It was pretty shit then. I don't remember a whole lot of what I was taught. All I know is I've grown a hell of a lot more as an individual from the time that I was out of public school than when I was in. I learned the basics and the fundamentals, but that can be taught elsewhere. And all successful figures throughout history, all of the ones of prominence, you take a look at what they did for schooling, and it was private tutored. It was homeschooling in its most basic form. Just food for thought out there. something that we'll have to touch on a lot with a lot more detail in the future. CRT is strongly associated with the anti-racism movement, cancel culture, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion training in the workplace. I've never heard it specifically lumped in with cancel culture. Again, these are these nebulous terms that don't really have finite definitions, especially when they're talked about by politicians. It's like, cancel culture isn't a real thing. It's all about accountability culture. You'd get those fucking galaxy brain takes from the left. And then you'd have the same boomers that would be up there on a CPAC stage saying, we need to take down cancel culture because if you just post one thing on the internet, they'll take you down and you won't be allowed to speak anymore. You're not helping anybody if you aren't being specific about the parameters of the ideas that we're talking about here. They're just as useful, or they're just as worthless as one another. Useful, totally different. They're useful in muddying the waters. There we go. As well as, yes, die training. Diversity, inclusion, and equity. According to Legal Insurrection Foundation, criticalrace.org, and other critics of ideology, a CRT is an offshoot of the earlier critical theory. Yes, a European Marxist school of thought that originated in the early parts of the 20th century. Yes, it also gave birth to the same intersectionality and neo-Marxism, all the stuff that Peterson was talking about in 2015, and then even before that. All you need to do is just take a look at what grabbed hold of all of your different favorite entertainment properties and why everything has been shit for a fucking decade at this point, because critical theory hopped into all that stuff. And now it's going after the normies, and the normies are starting to mobilize. Never forget that the radical left is not the majority in this country. That right there. Nobody has fucking said that, and that's so damn important to drill into people's heads, okay? These are fringe motherfuckers. They disappear if you're not on Twitter. If you're not on Facebook, if you just turn off mainstream media, they're gone. You don't see these people in public. You especially don't see them outside. And if you do, you don't see their face because they're still the only motherfuckers out there rocking the face diaper. These people don't exist in great numbers. They just have the loudest voice, because where do all the politicians nowadays take all of their cues from? Social media. And where do these retards have the most voice and the only time that they have an opportunity to speak up and somebody takes them seriously is on social media. You know it. I know it. I've been saying it for a long time. Now that Trump's saying it, I guess it gives it a little bit more legitimacy, but then at the same time, he is also the guy who holds a lot more credibility and has a lot more sway. And don't worry about it. If you don't believe me, just take a look at all the governors that'll be spouting the exact same shit within a couple of days. So, and then he follows it up with, we're the majority and it's not even close. Yes, exactly. Because here's something I didn't even anticipate talking about in this video. Like, okay, when Trump says we're the majority, it's not even close, who is he referring to? It's not just the people who are in that room, okay? He's talking to everybody who would support him from before, okay? He turned on a lot of people in 2016, right? Not sexually. He has many a pussy to grab beforehand, obviously. But he created this situation where you either hated him or you loved him. Okay, there was very few people in the middle. People were just either, yeah, you know what, we need a monkey wrench in the situation. You could find a way to kind of rationalize it. It's like, okay, he's a very successful businessman. He has the opportunity to turn around kind of a stagnant economy, and that's something that he's good at. So I guess I could probably vote for him if I wanted to. And then at the same time, you could also take a look. It's like, okay, yeah, his personality is really toxic. He has all of those mean tweets that I don't like, and I just can't vote for him. But then you had the opposition, Hillary Clinton, and we need not run down that entire treasure trove of disaster that she was. So a lot of people who were hip to what was happening punched out. And all the people who were on the fence but just couldn't quite pull the trigger for Trump ended up doing that in 2020. Okay, the people who were uncertain about Trump, yeah, okay, he probably did enough for them in the 4 years that eased any of the concerns that was out there about his inexperience, about, oh, he had so many bankruptcies, you know, shit rhetoric that they'd hear from their friends or their family members, or that, oh, his wife's a whore, oh, he's cheated on all of his wives. Like all of these superficial attacks, and maybe, you know what, at the end of the day, They were just tired of seeing the motherfucker get bullied by literally everybody, okay? The guy couldn't do anything right, but then at the end of the day, they take a look at their bank account and realize, holy fuck, there's a lot more money in there than there was just a couple of years ago. Perhaps this dude is doing something right, okay? Because there are how many stories about people walking away from the Democratic Party, but you don't see it happening the other way around. And that's what he means by the majority, okay? It's not just Republicans. It's a whole host of independents. It's former Democrats. It's people who are new to the voting bloc that hated the idea of the politician and looked up at that dude up there saying a whole bunch of goofy shit and being like, yeah, you know what? I wouldn't say it to anybody else, but I think he's on to something. Because, yeah, I know my tendencies, okay? Much more freedom-based, much more individualistic. Sure, if you're going to be using that outdated model of the left and the right, my ideas probably skew a little bit farther to the right. But to say that I'm a Republican or to say that I'm a conservative in the United States, or I'm sorry, up here in Canada, you take a look at the current parties, I don't fit in those. Aaron O'Toole's not my dude. Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy. How many hours of videos are out there of me decrying all three of those fucking fools? I go wherever makes the most sense for me. And as of right now, that goes with Trump. And then here in Canada, that goes with Maxime Bernier. We'll see who the PPC party candidate's going to be. I hope it's somebody of high stature and honor, but we're also not finding ourselves in a situation of a snap election, thank Christ, right now. But yeah, that was an unexpected tangent, but I think that's important to just kind of clear up that stuff, because you hear all the time whenever there's an opposition to some fucking whack jobs idea from mainstream media, from legacy media, because it's not even mainstream at this point. You see their numbers and it's laughable if your name's not Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity. Nobody's watching those motherfuckers, so to call them mainstream is doing a disservice to the bulk of people. Everything is just so fragmented. And that's fine. It's just, what are people looking for? What is their overlying ideology? What do they care about? And I think if you take a look at what the bulk of people are looking for, it's the type of stuff that I'm talking about. It's that type of idea that's out there. That's a majority of the country. It's not the Twitterites who would just have on MSNBC on a loop just to try to artificially inflate their ratings. These grifters who have to fucking rationalize their fandom of certain dolts who just sit on live streams, collect super chats, and read Wikipedia articles, and just pull different mental gymnastics in order to debate me, bro, and pull fucking numbers that way. Like, that's not a way to live. That's not sustainable. And they always get exposed as being fucking creeps or grifters. So let's continue on with Trump here. He said the battle is so much bigger than policies. Than policy proposals or Supreme Court rulings saying that the radical left has infiltrated or is controlling centralized institutions such as bar associations, universities, schools, Hollywood, big tech, and large banks. Oh, no, there's no infiltration. It was a full-on takeover. It's something that people have been hip to, people have been wise to since the 60s on a small scale. And then I'm thinking even normies at this point are starting to pick it up right now. But a lot of people hopped on the bandwagon, like I was saying, for picking up on this stuff, probably late aughts, early tens, somewhere in there. But it was probably, I think, the earliest that I would have been really aware of it. Honestly, in retrospect, going back, taking a look at old stuff from like the late 90s, like just the deconstruction of the American family, even with a show that I love very much and I don't speak about enough, The Simpsons. Some of the satirization there, yeah, you could see. It was still good, it was still great, and I'll still watch it with great reverence, but you could see it making its inroads. And then, yeah, he points out everything that's very obvious. Universities and schools, need I say more? Hollywood, big tech, obviously. And then large banks, yeah, because Trump was deplatformed from 2 or 3 large banks that told him, yeah, that your money's no good here, sir. And just as a little bit of a side note, I seen this and I wanted to bring it up as well. Somebody's actually taking this seriously. Somebody's taking an initiative to it. And I haven't heard this dude before, but he's a Christian motivational speaker, and he's starting a new bank in response to a rise of cancel culture in the private sector. Nick Vujicic, sure. He's probably a great place to put your money because, well, for obvious reasons, he's not going to steal it. But somebody's got to take fucking responsibility, and somebody's got to see the opportunity that's there in the field right now because, yeah, is not going to stop. It's going to be going everywhere. Yeah, one day you get kicked off Twitter, then you start getting kicked off of every other social media platform. It's like, okay, well, I'll build my own website, and then you get parlored, you get the entire fucking website ripped down. Well, that's fine, I can still sell my merchandise. Okay, then Teespring or Shopify remove you from their platforms. Oh fuck, well, I'm going to have to find a different way, and I'm going to have to hop on some sort of backwater server, but at least I'll be able to, run some credit card numbers. Oh, and then Stripe and PayPal, MasterCard, and Visa decided to deplatform and deprogram you. So what, is everybody just supposed to walk around with fucking briefcases full of money? No, it's going to take, I don't know, man, an entire segmented society, I guess, and I'm kind of tangentially fine with that, because this dude's going to make a killing. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that in because I think it's pretty cool that somebody's filling the void in the sector. And somebody who seems to have quite a respectable background, so big ups. But yeah, we could continue to go back to what Trump was saying there to begin with. But I also said that we'd be touching on what's going down in Texas, and that is pretty important, okay? And that was going to be the central theme of this before we went off on a whole bunch of tangents. Do forgive me, but it was important to clarify some stuff because more often than not, the people's disagreements come down to a sheer disagreement on what the terms are because nothing's ever clearly defined. Like, we don't know what one side believes as opposed to what the other side believes or what their terms are to begin with. Because there are some just genuinely evil people who are just out to seek and destroy. But more often than not, yeah, it's just somebody's missing the point along the way. And speaking of which, this is also a subject kind of close to what got me my first strike on my channel, or after talking about Bill Gates wanting to switch everybody off to bugs via synthetic meat, got me the medical misinformation warning that still lingers on the channel. No, it was talking specifically about fraud cases in Texas being prosecuted by Ken Paxton. That original 9-minute video is still up on Rumble, and I don't know if Odyssey grabbed it in time, but I know it's up on Rumble, and it's monetized and doing great over there. Nothing sus about that, fuck YouTube. But Texas now investigating 386 more cases of voter fraud. Interesting. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton told an audience of Conservative Political Action Conference, the CPAC, the same one that Trump was speaking at, on July 11th, that his office is investigating nearly 400 or more alleged claims of voter fraud, and told audience members that concern about election fraud isn't overblown. I think he'd know because it's his office and need to look into this stuff. The 386 cases are being investigated are in addition to the more than 500 cases that his office has prosecuted, Paxton said, without elaborating on details of some of the cases. Yeah, you gotta be vague because they are ongoing investigations and ongoing trials, so you can't get specific. Do not believe the narrative, because in Texas we are going to fight election fraud. Good. Every state should be doing that. I don't think that should be a bipartisan issue. Voter fraud is a problem. It doesn't have to be against a specific candidate. It should be rooted out, because if we're running under a system of one person, one vote, you shouldn't have any questions if that vote is going to be counted once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 times, or if it's not even going to be counted at all. Either go back to old Roman pottery shards, or we just stand out in the town hall and everybody raises their hand for whatever candidate they want. Everybody counts it and you go on with your day. But no, secret ballot, because the Australians came up with it, and nothing bad has ever come of taking the lead of what Australia's been up to, right? People tell you that there is no election fraud. Now, let me just tell you right now, my office has 511 accounts in court because of COVID waiting to be heard. We have another 386 that we are investigating, he told CPAC audience in Texas. If you add those together, there's more election fraud than my office has prosecuted since its starting investigation election fraud years and years ago. So do not believe the narrative, because in Texas we are going to fight election fraud. Awesome. I'm glad that they're taking this seriously. And another move in order to make sure that there is no more election fraud is by, well, passing laws and making things more stringent when it comes to mail-in balloting, signature checks, drop boxes, chain of custody, all of those different concerns that are out there, okay? They are numerous. There are many holes that are there that could potentially be exploited, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that what? Florida's taken seriously. I think the Dakotas have as well. Several states across the union, and now Texas is trying to. And there's some bills running through the House and running through the Senate that are going to get kind of quasi-filibustered by Democrats. Because there was another story not that long ago of some House Democrats in Texas just picking up and walking the fuck out because they didn't want to hear anything. They would break quorum. There wouldn't be enough votes available in the House in order for it to be a legally binding vote. And now they're going to do it again because they can't fucking get their way. Texas Democrats officially fled the state capitol to break the quorum in special session to address election integrity legislation. This could be about the exact same bill because I remember when we covered this, Abbott said that he was going to call a special session and you're going to have to vote on this one way or another. Governor Greg Abbott called out Democrats' partisan political games and mocked the hypocrisy of the climate change activists, liberals fleeing on cushy private planes. Yeah, fucking funny, right? No. All that kind of stuff, the systemic racism, the climate change, it's all that kind. It's only a problem when they need it to be. Not when they're actually trying to get to the bottom of anything. Not when they're trying to stop anybody adding to it. No, it's only a problem when they can weaponize it. Time to get back to work, Abbott tweeted Monday, saying fleeing Democrats abandoned the people they were elected to serve. Yep. Hopefully they don't get paid fuck all. Texas Democrats took a decision to break a quorum in Texas legislature and abandon the Texas state capitol inflicts harms on the very Texans who they were elected to serve. Abbott's statement began, as they fly across the country on cushy private planes, they leave undone issues that can help their districts and our state. Yeah, exactly. If you guys are doing a good job, guess what? They're going to vote for you again. So if you think that this is racist, sexist, misogynistic voter laws, then you shouldn't have a problem. You really shouldn't if you're doing a good job. Abbott noted Democrats might have the intention of blocking election integrity measures, but they also abandoned important work on issues like property tax relief, funding to support sheriffs and law enforcement in high crime areas. No, that's not Democrats' problem, because Republicans, I listen to the White House and what they have to say, right? Because Republicans are the ones who are actually defunding police. So I don't know, Greg. I think that you're lying to us. Funding for children in foster care and funding for retired teachers. You'd think that should be Democratic talking points 101 right there, but they don't care because they're children. They're absolutely fucking children. Dude, it's stunts like this that is going to delay, if not just outright get rid of any hope of purpling Texas or turning it blue anytime soon. Because every time that they throw a fucking hissy fit like this, people remember. People remember. And especially if you got to associate that to all of the fucking fits that happen at the federal level of the fellow Democrats. Yeah, it's not a good look, especially for the party that prides themselves on being the champion of optics. You just really look like crying fucking bitches. Oh, but speaking of people who are pulling the victimhood card, we got a journey across the pond for the biggest football match that has happened in quite a while and the aftermath of said event. With that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Catch y'all later.